The all-female alien tribe found me in the forest. Now each wanted her own turn. Sci-Fi, Captain Alia Richards, had never imagined that her exploratory mission would end like this. Her ship, the Endeavor, was supposed to be a beacon of human exploration on a distant, uncharted planet. Instead, a freak malfunction in the ship's navigation system sent her crashing down to the surface of a mysterious world. As she regained consciousness, she found herself alone, lying among the towering trees of an unfamiliar forest. The stars above her seemed closer than usual, and the air was thick with the scent of strange, flowering plants. She groaned, struggling to sit up. The crash had been rough and her body was sore from the impact, but she was alive, and that was what mattered. Alia knew that survival was her first priority, so she did a quick check of her gear. Her suit was intact and her communicator was still functioning, barely. The only problem, the signal was weak and there was no telling how long it would last. Her mission had been straightforward: discover new planets, study the ecosystems, and gather data to send back to Earth. But now, stranded on this unknown world, everything seemed uncertain. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm, golden glow over the landscape. There was no sign of human life. Alia sighed and stood up, brushing the dirt from her uniform. She had no choice but to venture deeper into the forest in search for shelter. The forest was unlike anything she had ever seen. The trees were colossal, their trunks twisted in strange, spiraling patterns, their leaves shimmering in hues of violet and turquoise. The ground was soft, covered with thick moss that seemed to pulse with life. Strange birds with bright feathers flitted between the branches, their songs hauntingly beautiful. Alia couldn't help but be in awe of the beauty around her, but she quickly reminded herself of the task at hand. She needed to find a way to fix her ship, or at the very least, communicate with Earth. As she walked through the forest, Alia couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. Her instincts, honed from years of space exploration, told her that something, or someone, was observing her every move. She paused, scanning the area. Nothing. Just the rustling of the leaves and the chirping of alien creatures. Minutes passed and Alia pressed on. The dense forest made it difficult to navigate, but the path seemed to open up in front of her, leading her to a clearing. In the center of the clearing stood a massive stone structure, covered in vines and moss. It looked ancient, its walls etched with symbols that Alia didn't recognize. Could this be a sign of intelligent life? She felt a surge of hope. Maybe she wasn't entirely alone on this planet, but before she could approach, the hairs on the back of her neck stood on end. She turned, sensing movement in the trees, and then she saw them. At first, Alia thought they were just figures in the shadows, but as they stepped into the clearing, she realized they were beings, humanoid yet entirely alien. They were women, tall and slender, with long, flowing hair that seemed to shimmer with a faint, ethereal glow. Their skin, a soft shade of green, radiated an inner light, and their eyes glowed with an otherworldly hue. They moved with grace as though they were part of the very forest itself. Alia froze, unsure of what to do. The women stood silently, their gazes fixed on her. It was clear they had never seen a human before. Alia felt a wave of both awe and fear. She had no idea if they were friendly or hostile, but she couldn't risk making a wrong move. One of the women, who appeared to be the leader, stepped forward. She was taller than the others, her hair a shimmering silver that contrasted against her green skin. She spoke in a language that Alia didn't understand, but the tone was soft, almost melodic. The woman tilted her head, studying Alia as if trying to decipher who or what she was. Alia swallowed nervously but tried to stay calm. She raised her hands in a peaceful gesture and slowly spoke. "I come in peace. I'm an explorer from Earth. My ship crashed. I need help." The woman's gaze softened and she exchanged a look with the others. Then, as if deciding something, she nodded and gestured for Alia to follow. Without a word, the women began to walk deeper into the forest. Alia hesitated for a moment, but she had little choice. She couldn't stay here, and these aliens, whoever they were, might be her only chance of survival. The forest grew even denser as they walked, but the women seemed to move with ease, navigating the thick underbrush as if they were one with the land. Alia followed, keeping a respectful distance. As they walked, she couldn't help but observe the women more closely. Their movements were fluid, almost graceful, and there was a strange energy in the air around them. Alia couldn't explain it, but it felt as if the very forest itself was alive and conscious. Finally, after what seemed like hours, they arrived at a large, open space. In the center stood an enormous tree, its trunk so wide it would take several people to wrap their arms around it. The tree's branches spread out like a vast canopy, sheltering the area beneath it. The ground was covered in soft grass, and the air smelled fresh, filled with the scent of flowers and herbs Alia had never encountered before. The women led her to a platform built high in the branches of the tree, supported by thick vines. It was a breathtaking sight, a place that seemed to be both a home and a sanctuary. The women gestured for Alia to sit on one of the cushions placed on the platform. Hesitant but curious, Alia complied, taking in her surroundings. The woman who had led her here, the apparent leader, finally spoke again. This time her voice was softer, and Alia could almost understand the meaning of her words, though the language was still foreign. It seemed to be a mixture of tones and rhythms that resonated in the air, and Alia had a strange sense that the woman was speaking directly to her mind, as though they shared an unspoken understanding. Alia shook her head, trying to focus. "I don't understand," she said softly. "I need help. My ship is damaged. Can you help me fix it?" The leader of the women looked at her with curiosity, then gestured to the sky. It was clear that they understood her need for assistance, but their way of helping seemed different. The woman motioned for Alia to follow her, and once again, the group of women moved as one, leading Alia toward what seemed to be a sacred site near the base of the great tree. Alia wasn't sure what was going to happen next, but one thing was certain. She was no longer alone on this strange, beautiful world. And perhaps, just perhaps, these alien women might hold the key to her survival. Captain Alia Richards couldn't believe what she had stepped into. The world she had crashed on, seemingly hostile at first, now appeared to hold wonders beyond anything she could have imagined. The alien women had led her to a sacred area at the heart of their settlement, and she was in awe of everything around her. Towering trees with glowing leaves stretched high into the sky, and soft, blue light radiated from the ground itself. The air was thick with the scent of strange flowers, and the distant hum of nature echoed in the background. As Alia stood in the center of the sacred grove, the leader of the alien women, whose name she had not yet learned, stepped forward. Her silver hair shimmered in the soft light, and her glowing eyes met Alia's. There was a sense of calm about her, but also a quiet authority. She didn't speak with words, at least not in a way Alia could understand, but the emotions in the air were clear. There was a deep curiosity in her eyes, an interest in Alia's presence that was both respectful and full of wonder. The leader motioned for Alia to sit on a stone bench, its surface smooth and warm, as if it had been shaped by time itself. Alia hesitated for a moment, still unsure of what was happening, but she followed the gesture, sitting down carefully. Her mind raced. She had been stranded on this planet, unsure of what kind of creatures she might encounter, and now she was surrounded by an entire tribe of beings who seemed to be as much a part of the forest as the trees themselves. The women gathered around her, sitting cross-legged in a circle, their bright eyes fixed on her. Alia felt the weight of their gaze, but it wasn't uncomfortable. There was no hostility, no malice, just an intense curiosity. They wanted to know her, to understand her. After a moment, the leader raised a hand, and one of the other women, smaller but equally graceful, moved forward. She held out a small object in her hands, something like a glowing stone. It pulsed with light, shifting colors like the aurora borealis. The woman placed it gently into Alia's hands. Alia stared at the object in wonder. The stone felt warm, almost alive. She looked up at the women who seemed to be watching her expectantly. She held the stone closer to her chest, feeling a strange connection to it. It was as if the stone itself was communicating with her, its vibrations sending a ripple of energy through her body. "What is this?" Alia asked quietly, still unsure of the meaning behind the gesture. The leader of the women moved closer and placed a hand on Alia's shoulder. Her touch was light but comforting, and once again, Alia felt a strange, unspoken connection. The leader then pointed to the stone and made a series of gestures, tracing patterns in the air as if drawing invisible symbols. The other women mimicked her movements, and Alia realized that this was some sort of ritual or communication. The stone wasn't just an object, it was a tool for understanding, a bridge between their worlds. Alia closed her eyes and focused on the stone, trying to let go of her fears and doubts. Slowly, a sense of calm washed over her. The hum of the forest grew louder, as though it was responding to her presence. She could feel the forest around her, its pulse beating in time with her own. It was an incredible sensation, and for the first time since she had crash-landed, Alia felt truly connected to the planet. Suddenly, a voice filled her mind. Not a spoken voice, but a presence, a deep, resonating thought. It was as though the forest itself was speaking to her, its consciousness intertwining with hers. "You are not alone," the voice seemed to say. "We see you, we know you, you are part of this place now." Alia opened her eyes, her breath catching in her throat. The stone in her hands had stopped glowing, but she could still feel the presence of the forest within her. She looked around at the women, who were now all looking at her with expressions of understanding. They had witnessed the connection, and Alia felt a sense of wonder. She wasn't sure if the women had somehow linked her to the forest or if it was the other way around, but the bond was real. The leader smiled gently, and Alia could sense that the alien woman was pleased. She had passed some kind of test, though she didn't fully understand what that meant yet. The women stood up, and Alia followed their lead. The group moved through the grove, heading towards a large, natural structure formed from twisted vines and branches. It resembled a temple of sorts, but made entirely from living plants. Alia marveled at the way the plants seemed to move on their own, as if they were aware of her presence. They entered the temple, where the air was thick with the scent of sweet herbs. Inside, there were no windows, just glowing plants that bathed the space in a soft, greenish light. The walls were covered in intricate patterns of symbols, and Alia couldn't help but wonder what they meant. The women began to circle the room, their movements graceful, as if they were performing a ritual. Alia followed, unsure of what to do, but feeling compelled to join them. She could sense that this was an important moment, something that would bring her closer to understanding these beings and their way of life. The leader reached into a basket and retrieved a long, slender vine. She handed it to Alia, motioning for her to take it. The vine was soft, but it had a strong, resilient quality. Alia grasped it carefully, unsure of its significance. The leader smiled and gestured for her to follow. They moved toward a series of wooden platforms that were suspended high in the branches of the great tree, the heartwood. The women began to climb the platforms, moving as effortlessly as if they were part of the tree itself. Alia hesitated for a moment, then followed, using the vine to steady herself as she ascended. The higher she climbed, the more she felt a deep sense of connection to the forest, as though she were becoming one with it. When she reached the top, the view was breathtaking. From her perch, Alia could see the entire grove stretching out beneath her. The massive tree at the center of the grove, the heartwood, stood like a guardian of the forest, its branches spreading wide. The women gathered around her, their eyes filled with anticipation. The leader extended her hand to Alia, and Alia reached out to take it. There was a moment of silence, and then the leader spoke in her strange, melodic language. This time, however, Alia understood. "You are a visitor, but you are welcome," the leader said, her voice resonating in Alia's mind. "We are the Quran. You will learn our ways and we will learn yours. Together we will grow." Alia smiled, the weight of her situation settling in. She was far from home, stranded on an alien world with no way to communicate with Earth. But here, among the Quran, she felt a sense of belonging. She had been accepted, not as an outsider, but as part of their world. She had no idea what the future held, but for the first time in a long while, Alia felt hopeful. The leader's gaze softened, and Alia realized that this was only the beginning of something far bigger than she had ever imagined. She was no longer just a stranded explorer. She was a part of a new family, one that spanned across the stars. And together, they would uncover the mysteries of the universe. The days blended together as Alia learned more about the Quran and their peaceful way of life. The women, though alien in appearance, were not so different from humans when it came to their curiosity and their desire to learn. She spent her time with them, sharing stories of Earth and listening to their tales about their own history, their culture, and their connection to the land. In return, Alia was taught their customs, the delicate balance they had with the forest, and the ancient rituals that kept them in harmony with their world. But despite all of this, Alia couldn't shake the feeling that her presence among the Quran was more than just a chance meeting. The longer she stayed with them, the more it seemed that they had a deeper interest in her than just as a survivor of a crash. There was something more, something she couldn't quite understand, but it was starting to become clearer with each passing day. It was on the fourth day that Alia was invited to a special gathering at the Heartwood, the massive tree at the center of their settlement. The air was thick with the scent of flowers, and the sky above had shifted to a soft, purple twilight as the Quran prepared for their most sacred ceremony, the ceremony of the bonds. The women moved around the tree in a circle, weaving together vines and leaves into intricate patterns that seemed to hum with energy. Alia had learned that this ceremony was an ancient ritual performed only once every few years. It was a time when the Quran strengthened their bond with the forest and with one another. It was also a time when new connections were formed, connections that would define the future of their tribe. As Alia watched, she realized that the ritual was more than just a tradition. It was a symbolic joining of souls, a way for the Quran to reaffirm their unity and their commitment to one another and to the land. The leader of the tribe, whose name Alia had finally learned was Riera, noticed Alia standing at the edge of the gathering. Riera approached her, her silver hair glowing softly in the twilight. There was a sense of calm about her, and when she spoke, her voice was filled with kindness and understanding. "Alia," she said, her words soft but clear, "you are welcome to join us in this ceremony. You have become a part of this land, a part of us." Alia felt a lump form in her throat. She had spent so many days wondering what her future held, knowing she had to find a way back to Earth. But now, hearing Riera's words, she felt torn. She had only known these women for a short time, but it felt as though they had become a family to her. She had formed bonds with them, shared in their way of life, and learned to understand their connection to the world in ways she had never imagined. But Alia's mind was still on Earth, on the mission she had been sent to complete. She had a duty to her people, to her home planet. She couldn't forget that. "I don't know what to say," Alia admitted softly. "I've learned so much here, but I don't know if I can stay. I need to return to my world. My people will be looking for me." Riera's expression softened, and she placed a hand gently on Alia's arm. There was a depth of understanding in her gaze, a recognition that Alia was caught between two worlds, two responsibilities. Riera didn't speak for a moment, as if she was weighing her words carefully. "You are torn," Riera said at last. "Your people may need you, but you are part of this world now. You are part of us." The other women of the tribe gathered around them, each one watching Alia with expressions of quiet empathy. Alia could feel their eyes on her, but it wasn't pressure. It was support. They weren't trying to force her into a decision. They were simply letting her know that they would stand with her, no matter what choice she made. As the ceremony of the bonds began, the women of the tribe began to chant in their melodic language, their voices rising and falling in harmony with the rhythm of the forest. Alia could feel the energy in the air shift, as though the land itself was coming alive with the music. She closed her eyes, letting the sound wash over her, and for the first time since she had crashed on this planet, she felt truly at peace. The ritual was unlike anything Alia had ever experienced. The Quran moved together in perfect harmony, their actions synchronized with the energy of the land. They danced around the heartwood, their movements graceful and fluid, as if they were extensions of the trees themselves. The vines they had woven earlier now glowed softly, wrapping around the tree in intricate patterns. Alia felt a deep sense of connection to everything around her, to the women, to the forest, and to the land itself. As the ceremony continued, Rira stepped forward, holding a small crystal in her hands. She looked at Alia with a gaze that held both kindness and resolve. "Alia," she said, her voice carrying the weight of tradition, "we offer you the chance to become one of us. To join the Quran not as an outsider but as a sister. Your connection to this land is strong. It would be an honor to welcome you fully into our tribe." Alia's heart skipped a beat. The offer was unexpected, and for a moment she didn't know how to respond. She had never imagined that something like this could happen. To be accepted fully by the Quran to become one of them was a powerful and emotional offer. But the thought of leaving Earth, of abandoning her mission, made her chest tighten. She had always been a protector of her people, a representative of Earth. Her duty was to go back, to help forge new relationships between humanity and the other species of the galaxy. Yet the idea of staying, of becoming part of something greater, of becoming a part of this peaceful and wise tribe, was incredibly tempting. Rira watched Alia closely, her eyes filled with patience and understanding. She didn't rush her, didn't try to push her into a decision. The offer was not a demand, it was a gift, one that Alia could accept or decline. "I don't know if I can," Alia whispered, her voice heavy with uncertainty. "I have a duty to my people." Rira nodded, her expression softening. "Your duty is important," she said. "But sometimes our paths cross in unexpected ways. Sometimes the best way to serve our people is by learning from others. You can choose to return to Earth, but know this: no matter where you go, you will always be part of us." The words hung in the air, and Alia felt a warmth spread through her chest. She wasn't sure what the future held. She didn't know what her choice would be. But for the first time since the crash, she felt that the weight of her decision wasn't something to fear. She didn't have to choose between the Quran and Earth. She could learn from both, be a bridge between the two worlds. And that thought, more than anything, gave her hope. Alia stood at the edge of the heartwood, her feet firmly planted on the soft, glowing moss. The air around her was still, the only sound being the soft whisper of the wind through the trees. The Quran had gathered around the great tree, their eyes focused on her, waiting for her decision. The ceremony of the bonds had ended, and the night had fallen, wrapping the forest in a blanket of soft twilight. Alia had spent the last few hours reflecting on everything that had happened since she crash-landed here, alone and unsure of her future. The Quran had welcomed her with open arms, treating her like one of their own, offering her a chance to become part of something much bigger than she had ever imagined. But the choice before her now felt impossibly heavy. She turned her gaze to the heartwood, the massive tree that stood at the center of the Quran settlement. It was more than just a physical structure. It was the heart of their world, the source of their strength and unity. The forest had taken on a life of its own in her mind, a living, breathing entity that pulsed with energy. Alia could feel the pull of the land, the connection between the Huron and the planet itself. It was as if the forest was calling to her, offering her the chance to become one with it. Yet, her mind kept returning to Earth, to her home, to the people who were waiting for her return, to the mission that had brought her to the stars in the first place. Her purpose had always been to represent humanity, to explore new worlds, and to foster peace and understanding among the stars. The longer she stayed on this alien planet, the more she realized how much of her heart had become entwined with the Huron. The decision felt impossible. Alia's thoughts were interrupted by the soft voice of Rira, the leader of the Huron, who had approached her quietly. "You are not alone in this, Alia," Rira said, her voice filled with warmth. "The choice you face is difficult, and I can see the weight it carries. But remember, no matter what you choose, we will always be with you. You will always be part of us, just as you will always carry the knowledge of this world with you." Alia turned to face Rira, feeling the depth of the woman's words. Rira had been kind and understanding throughout their time together, never pushing Alia to make a decision, but always giving her the space to consider her future. "I don't know what to do," Alia admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "I've spent my whole life serving humanity. I've always believed that my duty is to Earth. But here, with the Huron, I've found something I can't quite explain. I've found peace. I've found connection, and I don't want to leave." Rira placed a gentle hand on Alia's shoulder, her touch both comforting and firm. "Peace is a rare gift, Alia, but peace can be found in many places. Your path may take you back to Earth, or it may lead you here. What matters is that you trust yourself, and that you honor both your heart and your duty." Alia nodded, taking a deep breath. She had been running from this moment for so long, unsure of what she wanted. She had always believed that her mission was her only purpose, but now, in the presence of the Huron, she realized that there was more to her life than just following orders. She had the power to shape her own future, to choose what felt right in her heart. She closed her eyes, the memories of her journey flooding her mind. The long days in space, the solitude, the excitement of discovery, and the moment she had first encountered the Huron. Everything had led her to this point, and for the first time in a long while, Alia felt as though she was exactly where she needed to be. But the pull of Earth was strong. Her people were depending on her. Her mission had always been to explore, to learn, to share knowledge. Could she turn her back on that? Alia opened her eyes, looking around at the women of the tribe. They stood together, watching her with expressions of understanding and quiet patience. They weren't expecting her to make a decision in a moment, but they were offering her their support, their trust. The wind picked up, and Alia could feel the forest shift around her. It was as though the land itself was encouraging her to make a choice, to find balance between her two worlds. "Alia," Rira said again, her voice steady and calm, "whatever you choose, we will help you. If you return to your people, you will carry the knowledge and wisdom of the Huron with you. If you stay with us, you will continue to learn, to grow, and to teach us in ways we cannot yet imagine. The future is not one path, it is many." Alia took one last look at the heartwood, then at the faces of the women who had become like sisters to her. Her heart ached, torn between two worlds that she had come to love in different ways. She could see the possibilities for both futures. She could stay, join the Huron, and become one with the land, living a life of harmony and peace. Or she could return to Earth, share what she had learned, and bring the wisdom of the Huron back to her people. Either path would be a journey of its own, full of purpose and meaning. But as she stood there, in the quiet of the forest, she realized that the choice wasn't about leaving one world behind for another. It was about finding a way to integrate both, honoring her roots while embracing new connections. Alia smiled softly, the decision becoming clearer in her mind. "I will return to Earth," she said, her voice firm yet filled with warmth. "But I will carry this world with me. I will share the knowledge of the Huron, of your ways, with my people. We have much to learn from each other." Rira's expression softened and she stepped forward, wrapping Alia in a gentle embrace. "We are proud of you, Alia. You are truly one of us, no matter where you go. Remember, the bond we share is not bound by distance. You carry our teachings in your heart, and we carry you in ours." The other women gathered around, their faces filled with understanding and support. Alia felt a sense of peace wash over her. She had made the right choice, not just for herself but for both her worlds. As the ceremony ended and the women of the Quran began to return to their homes, Alia stood beneath the heartwood, looking up at the stars above. She knew her journey wasn't over. It was only just beginning. In the coming days, Alia would prepare to return to Earth, carrying with her the wisdom and teachings of the Quran. She would tell her people about the peaceful tribe she had encountered, about the bond between the Quran and the forest, and the lessons they had to offer. She would share the knowledge of a civilization that had learned to live in harmony with the land and each other, a lesson that humanity desperately needed. But Alia knew that no matter where she went, a part of her would always remain with the Quran, and a part of them would always be with her. The stars above were vast, but she now understood that the connection she had made on this alien world stretched far beyond the boundaries of space, and that was a connection she would carry with her always.